the home of the do-it-yourself trucker. When everything goes wrong, you got a Redneckanize. All right, good deal. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, this is Ed with Redneckanize coming at you. We're here live every Sunday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. You can call in at 516-387-1733. Check us out, and you can also look us up on our website at redneckanize.com. But good deal. So getting back into it, I was going to talk about, there was this article where they were talking about the highway bill. The Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association sent a letter to the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee chair, and they talked about how they wanted to, do away with a lot of items that were anti-trucking. And of course, it's on the landlinemedia.com, Landline magazine website, Landline Now. And of course, it starts out here. It was a highway bill should exclude harmful policies for truckers, OOIDA says. And then it starts out. It says, a year ago, the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association opposed the U.S. House of Representatives version of the highway bill, H.R. 2, because of several policies that would have been harmful to truck drivers. As the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee crafts a new highway proposal, OOIDA is informing committee leaders of some of the modifications that would make the legislation positive for truck drivers. It says OOIDA sent a letter to the Transportation Infrastructure Chair, Peter DeFazio, a Democrat out of Oregon, and the ranking member, Sam Graves, Republican out of Missouri, on Monday, April 26th. The association also reached out to its more than 150,000 members, asking them to let their representatives know the damage H.R. 2 would have done to their businesses. The current surface reauthorization bill expires in September. In 2020, OOIDA originally lent support to H.R. 2 until amendments such as an increase in minimum liability insurance requirements for motor carriers were added, and the highway bill was then combined into a larger infrastructure package and stalled in the Senate. And that's where we're at now. It's a huge package. It's got tons and tons of spending about things that aren't really about infrastructure, talking about how they're talking about welfare reform is tied into infrastructure, so stuff like that. But the article continues. It says, last year's House passed Highway Bill H.R. 2 included some helpful provisions for OOIDA members, but the bill was married with several harmful policies that must be modified or removed in this year's reauthorization to ensure the continued success and viability of small business truckers, OOIDA wrote in the letter signed by President Todd Spencer. OOIDA adamantly opposed H.R. 2 when it moved through the House last year, and our position will not change if the same bill is introduced in 2021. The association said it will again vigorously oppose any legislation that includes policies that harm our members. One of those non-negotiable policies includes an increase in minimum insurance requirements, which OOIDA dubbed the highway bill poison pill in 2020. OOIDA provided a House Transportation Infrastructure leader an outline of how they improve H.R. 2 to better support the nation's truck drivers who are hailed as heroes during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And, that was the funny part, is that, truck drivers were marked as essential. So, keep on working, and you weren't really going to get paid anything extra. In fact, when the companies died and freight died and you had truck drivers that were allowed to work, but then couldn't, the freight rates took a dive, just boom, done. And that was what's triggered, which actually we're celebrating now. Today's May 2nd. And we had a protest in Washington, D.C. The truck drivers were camped out in front of the White House on May 1st. And that lasted, 25 days? So, and that was triggered because of the shutdown causing all these truck drivers to lose business, so. And then, of course, they're all saying, yeah, truck drivers are important. We want to take care of them. But the highway bill, they don't seem to be taking care of them. It says, last year's highway bill called for motor carrier minimum insurance requirements to be increased from $750,000 to $2 million. Previous standalone versions of the Insurance Act would have hiked the minimum requirements by about 550%, all the way up to $4.93 million. It says OOIDA said that neither increased proposal is necessary, and points to federal research authorized by the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. As required by MAP 21, Highway Bill, FMCSA commissioned the John A. Volpe, National Transportation System Center to research the issue. OOIDA points out that in 2014 report said the vast majority of CMV caused crashes have relatively small cost consequences, and the costs are easily covered by the limits of the mandatory liability insurance. The Volpe report also said that a small share exceed the mandatory minimum, but those cases are often covered by other insurance and assets. And I would agree with that. It's very, very little. What it is that these ambulance chasers are lobbying the politicians to get them to raise it. That way they can just say, hey, the minimum requirement now $2 million, so cut me a check for $1 million and all this will go away. And that's all they want. They just want the money. And the insurance companies, of course, they're already set to pay $2 million. So if they can if they can just let it go for $1 million, they'll do that, and they'll pass the cost along to the truck drivers or the carriers is what they'll do. There's a lot of jargon here. It says motor carriers minimum insurance levels adequately cover damages in all but 0.6% of crashes, the report said. In addition, the industry norm is to carry $1 million in coverage. All but 0.3% of the crashes were adequately covered by $1 million in coverage. The cost of the average crash was about $18,000, the report said. And of course, that's because truck drivers, if you have a carrier that has a lot of trucks, you're gonna have a lot of claims if you have a lot of trucks. And of course, that's claims for anything. It doesn't matter. So the average being 18,000, that's probably about right, because that's you're talking about fender benders, backing, all that stuff, all included. So yeah. It says what studies haven't shown is any improvement to safety associated with the increased insurance requirements, OOIDA wrote. There is no reputable research indicating an increase of any amount would help reduce crash rates. And see, there you go. If the politicians really cared about safety, that's what they would say, is that, we don't need to increase rates or increase the minimums, because once the minimums go up, do the crashes go down? No, they don't. It says OOIDA said the measure is nothing more than opportunity for trial lawyers to receive higher payouts from settlements at the expense of the American businesses, many which are still struggling amid the economic disruptions caused by the pandemic. And of course, that's what truck drivers know all along. It's just the ambulance chasers, because you see the commercials. If you watch TV at all, you see the commercials, even on the internet. Have you been hit by a big truck? Call us now. We'll take care of it. That's what they do. So. Says the association is not alone in opposition of the measure. More than 60 organizations in the trucking, agriculture, materials, and manufacturing and towing industries have formed a coalition with OOIDA to fight any attempts to mandate the mandate increase. And I mean, yeah, when the people have to pay the bill for the insurance, they're not going to like it. Insurance companies want more money. That's what they want too. They don't care about minimum requirements. They're not going to say no. They want premiums to go up. They want to make more money, because they know where the numbers are. If you say the requirement is $2 million, and they say, okay, now you're going to have to pay twice as much for insurance, but according to the report, the $1 million was covering it, so they're just collecting more money without having to pay out any more claims. So as long as they keep fighting their end, then the only person suffering is the people paying the premiums for the insurance. And it's not, and let's boil down to this. Even though I've explained several times in the past that a bigger carrier that's classified as quote unquote self-insured, those people, those carriers that are technically self-insured, it's not that they can afford to do different things because they don't, they're self-insured. So they don't matter, nothing, the thing is, nothing matters, they're self-insured. They don't matter, their crashes don't matter, they're self-insured or whatever. That's not right. But when you're self-insured, you technically don't have insurance premiums. So what happens is that according to the state laws, to be classified as self-insured, you have to have cash on hand. So what happens is every time you have an accident, you have to take that minimum liability coverage, which is the total amount, whether it be $750,000 or $1 million. You have to have that cash on hand. And when an accident happens, $1 million has to come off your bottom line and go over to an escrow account and stay in there until that accident gets cleared. That's why you see, Swift and Schneider and JB, all these big companies, they have their own adjusters so that they can get that money back. They get that accident cleared, that money gets chopped off, taken out of the escrow, moved back into their bottom line, and they got money to spend now. And, as long as accidents stay uncleared, then money just keeps going into an escrow account. And you're talking about, just think about how big like FedEx and Swift and all those are. Just think about how big those companies are. When an accident happens, they have to take so that means you got Swift probably moving, in a matter of 30 days, they're moving around what, 20 or 30 million dollars, at any given time. So you're talking about a lot of money, but the minimum requirement thing, they care about the minimum because it has an effect on their bottom line when they have an accident. So, but their premiums, they don't have a premium, so none of that matters, so that's not affected. So they're not really concerned about having to pay out money that they're going to lose. They just don't want to lose money off the top. So they're just like a regular insurance company. They're going to lose that money, but as long as they've got adjusters working, they get that money back. They know the bill, just like the report said. They're only spending an average of $18,000 per accident, so they know how that works. But they don't want to lose that. So now you're thinking instead of 30 million or more in the matter of 30 days, you're talking of like 60 to 80 million in the matter of 30 days. They don't want that. They don't like that idea. So they're concerned about it. So I think everybody should not want the only people that want it is the lawyers. And of course, the only reason why a big company would want it is they see it how it could run a lot of smaller carriers out of business, and that's what they like. They like to be able to be the only ones out there, And when you're the only ones out there, then you have more control over the freight you haul and the money that you make. You can either raise your prices or you can mandate certain prices for certain things, and you have control over that. We see that all over the place. I mean, if you work for Landstar right now, that there are tons and tons of different brokers and different agents and people trying to book freight. But a lot of times it's just a guy sitting in his living room on a computer that's taking one load off of, the Schneider load board or another different load board and just copying over and putting it on, a Landstar load board, and they're just nickel and diming you. The customer, the shipper is probably paying $10,000 to move that freight, and they're only willing to give you $2,500 of it. They're out there. I'm not saying that everything's like that. I'm just saying that they're out there, and we just know that that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to control the prices. And when you are a bigger one like Schneider or Landstar, where you got your own customer base or whatever, you can get all those people out of that, and you have more control over it. People are looking at you like these different load boards, like JB Hunt and all that. They have people working there trying to manipulate all that. But what it boils down to is they would rather, the people that run the system, they would rather let the driver make as much money as they can. But the people that are trying to, put the right freight with the right shipper or the right driver with the right freight, those guys are trying to make as much money as they can. And sometimes it's the shipper. Sometimes the shipper's like, hey, I got a load here I want to move, but I'm not going to pay an arm and a leg for it. What do you got? And the driver will come in with a low bid, and the lowest bid gets it. And there's shippers out there that do it because they know the system. So you never know. It's just there's a bunch of different, cooks in the kitchen on that, and then that's kind of why it's screwed up. But here on this thing here, like I said, this increase of insurance, that's a big deal. And there's a lot more issues that they want to talk about on here. And we'll dive into those here in a little bit. We're just going to step away and take a little break. And we'll be right back. So stay with us. Check us out, redneckanize.com. Give us a call, 516-387-1733. And don't forget to go over there and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate everybody doing that. All right. We'll see you in all a bit.